Okay, welcome back, kids. Now, again, we were doing some important topics, the link of which I had sent you today. The second concept was exploitation of informal sources of credit. Now, exploitation of informal sources of credit. To revert back to what are informal sources? Informal sources of credit is when you borrow money from your suppliers, when you borrow money from your for those landless workers, when they borrow money from or take an advance from the zamindars, and when you borrow money from the local money lenders. Now, these local money lenders, what they do is they basically give you loan, and after they give you loan, you are also forced to perform bigar, that means free of cost work in their lands, and at the same time, their the terms of credits are very unreasonable. The cost of borrowing, that is interest, is very very high. So जब आपका पूरा अर्निंग्स में से आधे से ज़्यादा हिस्सा इंटरेस्ट पे करने में चला जाता है, तो देन डेफिनेटली वेरी लिटिल इज़ लेफ्ट, वेरी लिटिल इज़ सेव्ड. एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ दिस, यू आर नंबर वन स्केर्ड ऑफ बोरोइंग. आपको बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत हो तो ही आप बोरो करते हो. सेकेंड थिंग इज दैट सिंस यू आर अनएजुकेटेड, probably the chances of exploitation would be more, and this is what happens to the poor section of our society, especially the rural India. Most of our India lives in villages. Now we are uneducated. As a result of this, whenever there is a need, whenever there is a family function, or whenever we buy, this is called as unfruitful lending. Whenever there's somebody who's not well, we borrow a lot of money from the local money lenders. They start exploiting us, and when they start exploiting us, that means we have to give them interest, and we have to give them principal amount also. There is no specific terms or conditions. Terms of conditions lender के हिसाब से change हो जाती है, and this is what happens in most of the rural India. Now, people who are poor are not able to borrow from banks. Why they are not able to borrow from banks? First of all, they are uneducated. When they are uneducated, obviously they do not know the procedures of bank. Our lending is very very complicated, right? Now, second thing is that they don't have the documentation, the correct documentation. For example, an income tax return. अगर एक गोलगप्पे वाला है, उसने एक दुकान खरीदनी है, and दुकान खरीदनी है means he needs to have something to mortgage. They don't have that, तो वो लोन उसको नहीं मिल सकता. Then second thing is he is working in an unorganized sector. He is not filing an income tax return, so documentation is not there. Nothing to give as collateral, documentation is not there. As a result of this, he doesn't borrow. If need be, he will go to the local money lender to borrow. लोकल मनी लेंडर उसे कई तरह के काम करवाएगा, अपने घर पे काम करवाएगा, अपनी ज़मीन पे काम करवाएगा, एंड एट द सेम टाइम वट एवर ही इज़ बोरोड उस पर बहुत सारा इंटरेस्ट लगाएगा, बिकॉज ही नोज ही कैन डू दैट. क्योंकि ये नीडी आदमी है, ही नोज कि इसको पैसे की ज़रूरत है. ही विल आस्क अनयूजुअल और unprecedented terms and conditions. Now, in this way, what happens is that creditors, lenders जो है, they exploit informal lenders. They exploit the poor people who do not have documentation and who do not have property that can be given as mortgage. Now, the next concept that we need to understand here is role of credit in capital formation and development of our country. I have always maintained that जिस country का banking system is strong and solid, banking system is strong, solid and well regulated, उस country की economy कभी भी flat नहीं हो सकती है. Your economy will always, there'll always be a bloom in the economy. Now, in the recent few years, we have seen that our banking system has not done very good. A lot of banks have failed. People are scared to put their money in bank, and at the same time, the regulatory body has become a little loose because the officers who got corrupted started giving unfruitful lending, unreasonable lending to rich people who took the money and went away. एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ दिस, वो किसका पैसा लेकर गए? हमारा पैसा लेकर बाहर गए. एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ दिस, आवर GDP, आवर आउटपुट reduced and people didn't want to borrow, bank made rules very strict on borrowing after these incidents. Now who were very badly affected? अमीर लोग जो बहुत extraordinary rich and powerful हैं उनको तो लोन मिल गया, but poor people who want to, or youngsters who wanted to have their own startups, who wanted to start their own cottage industries, they were not given loan. More restrictions were put on them. As a result of this, what happens? Cottage industry or startups did not come up. These startups provide employment opportunities to unskilled people of our country. So unemployment बढ़ी. High cost of borrowing, unreasonable conditions of borrowing led to lesser employment generation. As a result of this, it led to unemployment. Because of unemployment, poverty increased and savings reduced. And because of this, the infrastructure suffered. So banking system needs to be very, very strong for a country to flourish. So let us understand the impact of credit, low cost of credit on Indian economy, or for that matter on global economy. Low cost of credit on capital formation. What is my capital formation, guys? My savings, when I save them and reinvest them, that becomes my capital. So सबसे पहले, now when the interest is low, it leads to low cost of production या cost of a commodity कम हो जाती है. When cost of commodity कम होती है तो there is an increase in profit, so it leads to increase in profit. If profit is more, the income is more. This leads to increase in income, which leads to increase in savings. With savings are more, capital formation is there. It leads to capital formation. सेविंग्स बहुत ज़्यादा होती है, इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हैं, नए स्टार्टअप्स शुरू करते हैं, लोगों को एम्प्लॉयमेंट देते हैं. नाउ सेकंड, if the cost, there is a low interest, cost of borrowing is low, people are encouraged, or rather I should say small entrepreneurs like you are encouraged to borrow more funds. When you borrow more funds and use it for fruitful purposes, this leads to increase in cottage industry. When the cottage industry increases, at the end of the day, what happens? Cottage industry बढ़ती है तो employment generation होती है. Employment is generated, and when employment is generated, poverty is eradicated and GDP increases. So see, banking system and the credit in our country is the most important aspect if we need to grow and become a developed nation one day. The other thing that I want to tell you is to understand this concept of how rural people are exploited by the local money lenders and informal sources of lending. What I want you to do is watch a movie called as Mother India. आई नो थोड़ी सी वो बोरिंग साउंड करेगी क्योंकि बड़ी पुरानी मूवी है, इतनी हाईटेक नहीं है जैसे आजकल की मूवीज़ होती हैं, बट यू हैव टू वॉच दिस मूवी मदर इंडिया एंड यू विल अंडरस्टैंड द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ हाउ the money lenders exploit people in our country. With this, I finish off with today's lecture, and I think we are almost through with the entire explanation of the chapter. Just one small part is left that I'll do tomorrow, and then we will discuss the question answers.